So the question is, why do couples keep having the same argument even when they understand what's happening? And that is something that most couples recognize pretty quickly, right? I mean, if you're listening to this, I'm guessing you recognize it pretty quickly. And I would say even couples that are doing really well might recognize this if they've learned to navigate it. Because the research shows that something like 69%, let's just say 70%, of arguments between couples are unsolvable. They are the same argument. It's just the two personalities approach this thing differently. So if you can just predict how the argument's going to go, then how do you change your experience of that same old thing? And when you don't know how to approach it, then the topic can change, but the experience really doesn't change. See, that's the thing. It's the approach, not the topic. It's the approach, not the topic. Because one day it's dishes, another day it's money, another day it's time together. But somehow it feels like the same argument. So I wrote a piece about this, and I'll link it around the video if you'd rather read it. And so what does that actually mean, that it's the same argument? Well, it means that the emotional experience repeats. For example, one person feels criticized or misunderstood, one partner. The other partner feels maybe blamed or controlled, for instance. And within a few minutes, within moments, things become painful. You ever recognize that? That just within a moment, it's here we are again. It's painful. And a lot of the couples that I work with seem to assume that, like, we must not fully understand each other yet. There's something we're missing. We have to keep working to try to understand each other, or just like get something about each other, or get each other to change. One more conversation, one more insight or realization, and we'll get it. And then there's that frustration. Here we are again. Why didn't we get it? Why isn't it better? Right? And what's interesting is that, like, a lot of you really already understand your patterns. You know who pursues, who withdraws, who gets emotional, who gets logical, right? And so you know the patterns, but you just get frustrated that you haven't been able to change them. And so the question becomes, why doesn't understanding fix it? And this is the paradox. Understanding alone doesn't dissolve emotional patterns. You can understand a pattern and still not be able to stay present when it shows up. You see? You get triggered. You're not present. You're not in contact with yourself. Because when that pattern shows up, something faster than your ability to have insight, ability to interrupt the pattern, is already happening. And you're focused on the content on what was said and what wasn't said, or what always happens or what never happens. And so there's this pattern that's activated between you as a couple and within you individually. You're conscious of it, but partially unconscious of it because you're in the grips of it. You don't seem to be able to change it. And so there's a pattern activated underneath what's happening. There's the surface level of the pattern, and there's the pattern underneath. There's deeper stuff that you really won't be able to connect with each other, or even with yourself, when you're sort of caught up. You're caught up in this pattern. And so what actually starts this pattern? I mean, is it really like a tone of voice or a sigh or a comment that lands the wrong way? Those things might seem like they started, but maybe we're already caught in something before that happens. But because immediately, right, we assign meaning to these things, even if we've talked about them before, what they mean and what they don't mean, what our partner intends or doesn't intend. Our pattern has assigned meaning before we even realize it. We're caught up before we realize it. And then there's something beneath that's triggered. Something like that I'm not important enough to you, or I'm being judged by you, or I'm not safe in this relationship. And then even underneath that, there's something that would be vulnerable if we really felt safe to share it, but we don't. A fear of rejection, a fear of abandonment, a fear of not being enough. If we're conscious of it, and you might be conscious of it, or you might not, and that's okay, because when we start to get curious, when we start to get more present, it's an ongoing process of discovery. And we're just not in that process when we're just caught in these patterns, when we're completely caught by them. If we can at least loosen them a little bit with curiosity, with presence, then we can start to unfold the process of discovery within ourselves and between us about the truth about what's happening, what's really going on. Let's be curious about it. But when we're caught in the pattern, we don't say those things. You know, we don't say, I'm afraid of rejection or abandonment. I'm afraid of not being enough. We say, you're always judging me. Stop judging me. You never listen to me. You don't care. Or you make me feel like not enough. We might touch on it, but not in a way that we can really own it. And if we're judging and criticizing too, or our partner is judging and criticizing. Just because it's triggering us doesn't mean it's not really happening. So the deeper experience gets translated into this back and forth, this accusations or bickering, or just this argument that we're caught in that keeps repeating, this feeling of here we are again and I don't know what to do. And so what happens once we're triggered like that? Once we're that shift has happened where we realize that we're caught in something. There's been a tone of voice that we picked up on, or a body language, or a criticism, or something we interpreted as a criticism. And so we are caught up, and the conversation is no longer about the dishes or spending time together or whatever we thought the topic was. It isn't about that. It never was about that. we can't really even talk about those things until we get to a place where we're able to be present with each other in a relationship, because a relationship holds, so much for you. This isn't like, this isn't your workplace or something. I mean, those are relationships too, and but your primary, your relationship with your significant other, there's so much projection in there. It's the ground for where we work on things, where we can grow if we make it be that way. And if we don't have that viewpoint, then help us, because we're just pointlessly in these patterns. Unless you just have a honeymoon style ongoing relationship, which I doubt if you're listening to this and if you're here. And so the conversation becomes about protecting and defending and criticizing, and then you're locked into a pattern, and a partner pushes and a partner defends or withdraws, and it's like this familiar loop, right? And something's happening in your nervous system, something's happening in your body, something's happening in your brain when we feel threatened emotionally. A part of the brain activates that prioritizes protection, and your attention, your field of awareness gets narrower. Maybe your jaw tightens, your body tightens somewhere. And if you get curious, if you get present, you can start to notice these things, have them be a cue to take a breath, and we'll talk about that more as these talks go on and as these chapters go on. But when we tighten like that, typically, if we're not able to get a little curious, if we're not able to get a little present, we lose access to some of our perspective. We're no longer in contactful presence with ourselves, and then with our partner, and we're just reacting. We're just reacting. So the real issue isn't just the argument. It's that contactful presence that's being lost. Contact with yourself, contact with your partner. And Contact with what's actually happening in the moment. Like, what are you noticing? What are you noticing in your body? Are you breathing? You're probably breathing. It's usually unconscious. Maybe you're breathing really shallow, or even holding your breath if you're caught up and uptight. You might notice that. And if you notice that, maybe things can start to shift. Maybe you can start to get curious. Maybe things can start to expand. So, if you're noticing that, like, we keep having the same argument, it feels the same, it's probably not because you don't understand something about each other. It may be there's a deeper understanding to get to, but probably, it's deeper. It's not really about the topic, or you'd be able to resolve the topic easier. But something's happening in those moments where contact with yourself and with your partner gets lost and a pattern takes over. And so I wrote about this in detail, how the pattern takes over. And I'll link it below. And if you like that one, you can continue through the blog posts and find out about how to change it. And so I hope that's helpful. I'm Tom Kirkham, and I'm a relationship coach and a clinical psychology intern at Pauhana Counseling in Hilo, Hawaii. You can find me there if you're in Hawaii, or you can find me online if you're anywhere. So wherever you are in the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, and aloha.